Thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, President Biden saying he'll withhold weapons from Israel if it launches a major invasion against Hamas in Rafah. The president getting some support from Democrats, but also facing a wide range of criticism. One of the sources of the growing anti-Semitism here in the United States, schools, and not just colleges, but kindergarten through high school levels as well. One of America's largest Christian universities under fire from the Biden administration. We'll bring you a look at the move against Grand Canyon University. And Promise Keepers comes back, getting ready to hold events once again in big stadiums. All those stories and more ahead today, right here on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Lots to get to. We begin this half hour with President Biden's warning to Israel: if you press ahead with a major invasion into the last Hamas stronghold in the city of Rafah in Gaza, you will not receive key weapons from the United States. The president being slammed for that decision by Republicans and pro-Israel Democrats here in America, along with major U.S. Jewish groups. As Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl reports, that controversy comes as Israel moves ahead with its battles against Hamas.
The Biden administration has long told Israel that it will not support a full-scale invasion of Rafah. Yesterday, the president told CNN that the U.S. will withhold certain weapons if that happens.
I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem.
The president said the U.S. will continue to provide for defense like Iron Dome to protect against outside attacks.
We're not walking away from Israel's security. We're walking away from Israel's ability to wage war in those areas.
Earlier this week, the administration announced it's holding up delivery of about 3,500 bombs to Israel. Biden also cited withholding artillery shells. At a Senate hearing, the U.S. Secretary of Defense admitted future arms deliveries to Israel could be cut off.
We are currently reviewing some near-term security assistance shipments in the context of unfolding events in Rafah.
That led to a testy exchange with Republican Senator Lindsey Graham.
Do you believe Iran really wants to kill all the Jews if they could? The Iranian regime, yeah. Do you believe Hamas is serious when they say we'll keep doing it over and over again? Do you agree that they will if they can?
I do. Hamas,
okay, right. Do you believe that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization also bent on the destruction of the Jewish state?
Hezbollah is a terrorist organization.
Okay, so you're telling me you're going to tell them how to fight the war and what they can and can't use when everybody around them wants to kill all the Jews? And you're telling me that if we withhold weapons in this fight, the existential fight for the life of the Jewish state, it won't send the wrong signal?
While some Democrats also question the administration's stance, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is backing the White House decision.
I believe that Israel and America have an ironclad relationship, and I have faith in what the Biden administration is doing.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declined to comment on the possibility of losing U.S. weapons support, but earlier this week he said Israel would fight its genocidal enemies even if it had to go it alone. In a radio interview, Israel's ambassador to the UN said Biden's decision will encourage its enemies.
Any pressure on Israel or the restrictions placed on Israel is interpreted by our enemies, Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, and everyone, as something that gives them hope to succeed in their objectives that are certainly not good for Israel.
Meanwhile, Israel carried out aerial strikes against dozens of terror targets in the central Gaza Strip, including military structures and terror tunnels. On Wednesday, terrorists launched numerous rockets from within civilian areas of Rafah toward the Kerem Shalom crossing, the main entry point for food and supplies to enter Gaza. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Here in the United States, while anti-Israel protests at major universities have been in the news for weeks now, college campuses are not the only educational institutions where acts of anti-Semitism are taking place. Jewish parents, teachers, and students are complaining about primary and secondary schools as well. Lori Johnson shows us how Congress has been looking into the issue including a hearing on Capitol Hill Wednesday.
A congressional committee grilled the leaders of 3 public K-12 school districts over their response to an alarming rise in acts of anti-Semitism. It accused the New York City school commissioner of going easy on offenders, like a teacher who posted this.
This is highlighting a Hamas paraglider who slaughtered Jews.
And we took action.
What was the action?
I cannot give you the specifics on the action that was taken.
Yes, you can. You're in front of Congress. What is the action?
I cannot give you this on the specific employee, on this specific employee.
That's unacceptable.
Before the hearing, Jewish students and teachers told stories about administrators ignoring anti-Semitic protests.
Some students in the crowd shouted comments like, "Bring back Hitler," and "kill all the Jews."
And violence.
The ugly cancer that is Jew hatred is not only present within our own school walls, but authorized.
Carla Silvestri with Montgomery County, Maryland schools just outside Washington, D.C., admitted teachers who openly target Jews are still employed.
You're teaching hatred and we're going to get rid of you. Has that happened?
We have taken disciplinary action, yes.
Have you fired anybody?
No.
Berkeley, California's superintendent told lawmakers she's fine with her district's policy of teaching students the battle cry, calling for Israel's destruction.
One of the slides in this curriculum said, for some Palestinians, from the river to the sea is a call for freedom and peace. It then cited as support a quote from Congresswoman Tlaib, who was censured by this body in a bipartisan vote. Do you think that's an appropriate thing to have on a slide for students?
What was on the slide again? Say it again, please.
It said, for some Palestinians, from the river to the sea is a call for freedom and peace. Do you think that's appropriate?
So we definitely believe that it's important to expose our students to a diversity of ideas and perspectives. And if it was presented as a perspective, I do think it's appropriate.
Lawmakers cited complaints of anti-Semitism reaching as young as the 2nd grade. But the educators testifying told the lawmakers they're pushing back on anti-Semitism, fighting it with education and, when needed, discipline. Last year, the presidents of 4 elite universities went before a similar House committee investigating anti-Semitism, which precipitated 2 of them losing their jobs. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Coming up, another important story involving the government and education, this one beyond the headlines. One of the nation's biggest Christian universities under fire from the Biden administration. We're going to bring you a look at the controversy and what the university has to say about it. We've got the story for you when we come back.
Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
Leaders at one of America's largest Christian universities says it is being targeted, but not by protesters, for its position on Israel. Grand Canyon is under fire from the Biden administration. CBN's Billy Hallowell has this story.
Education Secretary Miguel Cardona recently stunned critics with his vow to shut down Grand Canyon University, a popular Arizona-based Christian college.
We've levied the largest fine in ed history against a school that lied to students. We are cracking down on them, not only to shut them down, but to send a message across the country that you cannot prey on our students and expect to be successful.
Cardona's comments come just months after the Education Department hit the school with a historic $37.7 million fine.
Basically, they were accused of, misleading students about how many credits would be required for their doctoral program, and therefore leading students to spend more than they might have been expecting in tuition to complete those programs.
GCU President Brian Mueller, who's also been sued by the Federal Trade Commission, denies the claims and sees this all as part of an ongoing dispute over the school's nonprofit status.
This all started 14 years ago. Grand Canyon was in a very difficult spot, 900 students on campus, $20 million in debt. We switched from a nonprofit to a for-profit status and went to the public markets to get access to capital.
A decade later, as GCU thrived, leaders decided to revert back to nonprofit status. While the IRS recognized the new status, the Department of Education did not, leading to legal action.
Once we filed that complaint, the retaliation started.
Preston Cooper with the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity tends to agree there's somewhat of a vendetta in this case.
This is, fairly common behavior in higher education. I think it's very shady. I think it's a huge problem with the sector. But to say that this is a problem unique to GCU, I'm very skeptical of that. And that's why I am kind of the opinion that this is more of a targeted action against GCU rather than an effort by the Department of Education to fix this problem more broadly.
Mueller has no plans to back down.
We got to this point now because we filed an appeal, obviously. We said to them, it doesn't matter whether the fine's $37 million or $1. We're not paying it because what you're saying, the opposite is true. We are extremely transparent. We're known for that. We take pride in that. So obviously we're going to contest this, and right now it's under appeal.
Mueller points out that GCU provides a Christian worldview and hasn't raised tuition in 16 years. He also believes some critics want to stop the school's expansion.
We'll grow the campus out to 50,000 students in the next 7 or 8 years. Our online campus will grow from 92,000 students to 150,000 students because of the creative mechanisms we're putting in place. And so they're looking at that and they're saying, these people are going to have a significant reach into the culture. We're the largest private university in the country. In a couple of years, we'll be the largest university in the country. And we do teach from a Christian worldview perspective. This is a movement that is gaining momentum. Kids are coming from all over the country. And I think there is a desire to stop the momentum.
The lawsuit triggered an audit of GCU on behalf of Arizona's Veterans Affairs Department in order to ensure credibility for GI Bill funding. The investigation into the Education Department's claims found nothing negative. GCU plans to continue to fight to clear its name. Billy Hollowell, CBN News.
I want to turn now to another subject of great importance in Washington and to Americans across the country. Congress is running out of time to shore up Social Security and Medicare, with new reports showing the programs could be out of money in a little more than 10 years to pay for full benefits. But Congress can't get together on a solution. As George Thomas shows us, time is running out.
America's trust funds are in dire straits.
Our two biggest government programs, Social Security and Medicare, the thing that matters to seniors the most, are both headed towards insolvency.
The government projects that retirees, including the elderly and disabled who rely on Social Security, could see their payments cut by 21% by November 2035. Medicare is expected to be insolvent by 2036.
Every penny you and I have put in for however many years we've worked, it's already all gone. Everything that we're talking about in terms of benefits for people even next month and on in the future is predicated on taxing younger workers today.
The problem is there aren't enough younger workers in the workforce paying into the trust fund with their taxes to offset the growing number of aging baby boomers set to start collecting.
And one of the wonderful benefits we have is people now are living much, much longer. But that's complemented, that good thing is complemented by the fact that we also are having far fewer children. And so there are fewer people coming into the program. Even with immigration, that's still the case where there are fewer workers today than there were, when the program was initialized.
Democrats have proposed higher taxes on the wealthy to keep Social Security funded. But analysts say that's not enough, and Republicans balk at new taxes, instead want to change the benefit formula and raise the retirement age for younger workers. With the clock ticking and cuts set to take effect in 9 years, both sides right now don't seem eager to tackle the problem.
We know the trust funds don't have enough money to pay the benefits that have been promised. And that means when they run out in less than a decade for Social Security, if you are newly retired in Social Security, I'm talking about when you're 71 years old, there are going to be across-the-board benefit cuts of above 20%. That's terrible.
As Americans wait for Congress to act, analysts say it's best to take steps to prepare for retirement by investing and saving wherever possible, so you're less dependent on the government. George Thomas, CBN News.
Still ahead, remember Promise Keepers? Well, it is coming back to big stadiums for events. We're going to hear from the new head of the organization. The story's coming up for you right after this. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. They're going back to their roots, the new head of Promise Keepers says. The ministry is returning to big stadium events. On this week's edition of The Global Lane, Shane Winning suggests the organization is using both proven and contemporary methods to reach a new generation of young men as the voice of integrity.
In this generation, we have access to things in an instant that, your generation did not. Looking at smartphones, how kids can be on the internet and be exposed to all different kinds of things, good and bad, at the ease of just unlocking their parents' phone or their own phone in many cases. I even remember when I was growing up, I didn't get a cell phone until I was a senior in high school, and we definitely didn't have the capability of these smartphones today. And so what we're seeing is a generation of people who are being shaped and molded by the world because of the things they see on social media.
Well, many older Americans see young people joining pro-Hamas protests on college campuses, getting their information on Instagram or TikTok, and then they wonder, how do we reach these young people? How do we help young men become courageous, to be men of integrity, especially if they haven't been taught that, respect, integrity at home?
Yeah, we need to be the voice of that movement, of the movement of integrity and purity and godly truth, and also be the example. Kids are looking for someone to model. They're looking for someone to look up to. And so you see these worldly examples of people who are rising up, and they demonstrate worldly masculinity, which is perverted in many senses, which is more about dominion, and it's less about godly characteristics. And so when it comes to masculinity, when it comes to Hamas, when it comes to any political things, it really shouldn't surprise us that the generation, who's in college right now, they're just taking to whatever they hear, whatever's popular. These fringe type examples are the ones that they latch onto in many of the issues of the day, whether it's, the right to life in the womb, or, the LGBTQ movement. We're seeing a generation latch on to what used to be the 1% or less stance, and they're now trying to, become a majority. And you see that with these interviews of kids on college campuses. They don't actually know what they're even protesting about. They don't know what they stand for. And when they're confronted with facts and with truth, they pridefully, rebuttal against it, even though they have no solid argument to stand on in the first place. And
I know you have a heart for veterans. You are one. And many veterans are involved with Promise Keepers. Many have come to Christ after their military service. So what is it about your time serving in U.S. Army Special Forces that changed you?
I think serving with some of the nation's most elite, I'd say the world's most elite soldiers, it'll just do something to you. When you're around people who are great, it makes you want to be great. And, at that level, mistakes can cost human lives. And so I think there's just something to be said about understanding the gravity of what we did, but also understanding, the sobering reality that life, is short. It's a wisp of vapor, the Bible says. Tomorrow is not promised. And so that really fuels my charge as I lead this organization, is that we can't count on tomorrow. We need to impact the men of our nation and our world today.
And I know Promise Keepers is shifting back now a bit to the big stadium events that put the ministry on the map. So why the shift, and what can we expect in Tulsa this summer?
Promise Keepers is known and remembered for these big, men's conferences in stadiums and arenas around the country. And we're going back to our roots in that sense. And Tulsa will be more of the same as far as the heart and the roots of Promise Keepers, a classic 2-day event, amazing spirit-filled worship, And what we will see are speakers that some may recognize, some might not, speakers who are going to equip us in different areas of life so that we can leave that conference that weekend in Tulsa more equipped to face the issues of the day.
And I see that Charlie Kirk is scheduled for the Tulsa event. Does that mean Promise Keepers is becoming a bit more political?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely not. You know, we've platformed athletes, we've platformed people from so many different spheres of influence, and no one accused us of going in any different direction. But I think it is funny when we bring someone who speaks into the political realm, people immediately believe that we're heading that direction. I believe Charlie has been extremely effective at reaching this generation with truth. He is a Bible-believing Christian, and he reaches this generation in a way that many people don't. And I'm excited to hear him in Tulsa this summer.
Okay, Shane Winning, CEO of Promise Keepers, thank you for your service and your commitment to our country. Most importantly, your devotion and service to Jesus Christ. Thanks for being with us. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Also on this week's episode of The Global Lane, on the edge of disaster, global population is out of control, but it's not moving in the direction most people would expect. And spring floods are wreaking havoc worldwide. We're going to show you how CBN's Operation Blessing is helping families in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Nairobi, Kenya. You can see it all on The Global Lane. That is this evening on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8. You can also see it on the CBN News app, or you can watch it on YouTube. Stay with us. We're coming back with an encouraging word for your day ahead. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Time now for your Thursday Thankful. I trust you will join me in this prayer of gratitude. God, thank you for your patience in times of waiting. For in the wait, you are preparing me for the things you have prepared for me. And to that prayer of gratitude, may we all say amen and amen. And with that word, make this a day filled with gratitude. Indeed, a thank-filled Thursday. That will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online, cbnnews.com. Take a moment, let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. We'll see you back here tomorrow for Faithful Friday.